The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are simply that, opinions. All are presumed innocent until proven otherwise in a court of law. Sensitive topics are discussed. Discretion is advised.
I'm Vinnie Politan. The subject of my investigation is the murder of a 13-year-old girl named Madeline Soto. Her mother told her to go to bed upstairs with the mother's boyfriend. Madeline ended up murdered. Here's the story. Madeline Soto had just turned 13. She had a party on Sunday, February 25th. The party wasn't at her house, but at the home of a relative. Her mom, Jen Soto, couldn't go to the party because she was working. So Madeline's aunt dropped her off at home. That night, Jen's on-again, off-again boyfriend, Stephan Sterns, was at the house to watch Madeline. Jen got home around 10. At around 11, Jen went to sleep and told Stephan to go to sleep with Madeline in the guest bedroom upstairs. That was the last time Jen saw Madeline alive. Stephan says he dropped Madeline off at school in the morning, but Madeline never made it to school. She was murdered and discarded about 20 miles from her home. Prosecutors have charged Stephan with that murder, but they've also charged him with something else. Years of sexual abuse. They say they found incriminating images of Sterns abusing Madeline on his Google Drive on his phone. Abuse that goes back more than 4 years. Meanwhile, the key witness against Sterns will be Jen Soto, Madeline's mom, who has spoken at length with investigators but has not been charged with any crimes. Incredibly tragic story. Now, Stephan Sterns, after he's arrested, has a phone call with his parents. And I think he knows, I think the parents know, I think everyone knows, those calls are recorded. Let's take a listen to this call, because one of the big issues in this case and trying to figure it out, because there's surveillance video of Madeline at different times, is trying to figure out from the timeline, when did Madeline die? As we listen to this part of the phone call, it's interesting. I mean, what we're hearing from Stephan Sterns himself. So let's listen. Again, this is him after he's arrested, speaking with his parents.
I wish I had done the correct thing to begin with. You know, I wish I had run downstairs and shaken her awake and called 911 and all that. And deserved a lot.
I wish you had too. I wish you had too. Maybe she could have been saved, but
she was beyond that.
Okay.
You know, when someone's that ice cold and just gone.
She was in a different part of the house?
Yeah.
She wasn't with you?
Well, she had gone to be with me earlier in the night, but I left her alone for quite a while I was sort of just walking around and, you know, haunting around the house like I do. You know, sometimes I go out for walks at night, or I just sit on the couch and just fiddle around on my phone, or just, you know, I don't sleep well at night, especially when I've got to be up early and do something the next day.
Yeah.
And that was the case. So every time I realized anything was wrong, it was
She was in a different part of the house when you found that out?
She was still upstairs.
Oh, she was upstairs. Okay.
Yeah, I left her alone there.
She was upstairs and he had left her. Okay? In this home, there's bedrooms downstairs, there's bedrooms upstairs. Stephan Sterns was upstairs, and he said he left her upstairs. Brings us to the first question in our investigation, and it's an important one, extremely important one. Did Madeline die in Stephan Sterns' bed? Is that where she died? And obviously, according to prosecutors, is that where she was murdered? Here with us, he's followed this case from the beginning. Court TV field reporter Cody Thomas and creator and host of Grizzly True Crime Channel on YouTube. She, too, has been following this case closely and owns this case on YouTube. Gisela Kay is with us as well. Thank you both. Cody, I want to start with you just to try to clarify for everyone. He's talking about upstairs, downstairs. What can you tell us and what have we learned about the living arrangements inside this home?
Well, Vinny, most of what we've learned about the living arrangements have come from interviews that Jen Soto, Madeline's mother, has done with police and investigators following Madeline's death. And through those interviews, we learned that Stephan was messy. The house was messy. The way Stephan lived gave Jen Soto anxiety when they originally, both of them two, lived on the bottom floor. But take a listen to this portion of a police interview where Jen Soto tells investigators that she told Stephan that he had to move to an upstairs bedroom. Take a listen.
He's not a very clean guy. He's kind of a little hoarder, like collector. So just my house was always a mess and never the way that I wanted it to look. Or the clutter just gave me anxiety. So I asked him to move upstairs and he did.
So Vinny, Stephan obliges. He moves upstairs to that bedroom, and this is where things get a little dicey. And again, in another police interview, Jen Soto details the sleeping arrangements once Sterns did move upstairs, and this is where she tells investigators that she would send Madeline to sleep with Stephan alone without her. And remember, Stephan is not her biological dad. She'd send her daughter to sleep alone in the room in the same bed as Stephan in an arrangement that is non-traditional to most. Take a listen to this.
And once he moved up to bedroom 4, were there instances where Madeline would sleep alone upstairs with him?
I'm gonna say
I want you to think carefully before you answer, because obviously we've gone through your phone and we've seen all the conversations that you've had with Stephan. So it's clear that that's occurring. So I'm giving you the chance to answer the question.
yeah, I'm just trying to figure out how many times it's happened.
Okay. Why are you allowing that to occur?
I saw Stephan as someone that I completely trusted with my life, my child's life. I thought he had cared for her as a father would. He had been in her life for more than half of it, playing the father role. I thought he cared for her the way I did.
So Vinny, regardless of what she was saying, Stephan's playing the father role, that he cared for her the same way Jen did. It's almost as if you can still hear some of the hesitation in her voice as she tells investigators that her daughter was sleeping with this strange man, really. She knew him, but it still wasn't her father.
No, it wasn't her stepfather either. They weren't married. There was nothing official. There was a guy who was, well, we'll get to that. Gisela, let me ask you, is it clear now from these phone conversations and the rest of the evidence that she died in that bed?
I think those jail calls are so incriminating because not only does it pair up with Jen Soto saying, I sent them upstairs, and Madeline Soto's phone showing that the data shows it went upstairs, but now Stephan Sterns literally saying it started there. I don't know what he means by it in the jail calls, but he's saying it all started there, and then he went downstairs for a bit, and then he went back up to check on her, and she was already gone. So yes, I do think that's the most plausible scenario now, is that she was murdered upstairs in bedroom number 4.
And when we say bedroom number 4, in this house, there's multiple people, right? There's other folks upstairs? Because he's saying that he goes downstairs and leaves her up there. So I'm wondering in my mind, what could possibly be alleged during a trial? Do we know if other people were there that night?
The roommates were there in the other bedrooms upstairs. There were 2 roommates. One of them also had a son. I don't think the son was there at the time. But yeah, it sounds like he's opening the door to speculation about maybe somebody else did something to her, because he just like walked away and then he found her like that, which is just very unlikely.
And Cody, the thing is, this runs complete contradiction to what he was telling the media, what he was telling investigators about this story about dropping her off at school.
Absolutely. Now he's saying that, oh, she was there and maybe I reacted in maybe not the best way, as he's telling his parents in these jail calls, but it completely is just total opposite of everything he already said to investigators on the record.
So I don't think that can be the story. I don't think dropping you off at school anymore can be the story, not with these phone calls. Let's take a listen to a little bit more of that call with his parents.
The murder charge aside, I mean, you're pretty much on the other side.
Potentially, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't want to confirm or deny anything one way or the other. I'm trying to hold on to hope as best as I can and see how the cards fall out here. They filed this morning to seek the death penalty.
Yeah.
How are you guys holding up?
Well, we're just waiting for this to play out. So, you know.
Yeah.
So, Debbie, your mother said that you were officially charged with murder. I didn't know about seeking the death penalty. I didn't hear that.
Well, it won't happen for a long time, according to your attorney, if at all. And from what we heard, your judge does not like the death penalty. He thinks it's too lenient, and he would rather have you in jail for the rest of your freaking life.
Oh, wonderful. Yeah.
I hate to say it, but I'd rather have you on death row because you're in more seclusion and you're not really with the bulk of the population of the people.
Well, I hate to say it, but I'd rather be on death row too because I agree with them. It's a much easier way out.
Gisela, it seems like the whole family is acknowledging he did it, he's guilty.
These jail calls are so shocking because now we're hearing it from the horse's mouth and his parents. Like literally, if it wasn't for these calls, we'd still be wondering, you know, I don't wonder anymore after hearing that. And there's multiple calls where he says he basically is admitting that he murdered Madeline Soto.
It's really quite stirring and shocking to hear. Like, they know they're being recorded. Like, there's the little message at the beginning of the conversation. And I'm wondering, you know, what's the explanation for all of this? What's the explanation? It seems the closest we get, Gisela, is that he says he goes downstairs and then goes back upstairs and sort of finds her there. But then there's the other part of the story, right, where the body is not found in the home. The body's found 20 miles away.
Exactly. He didn't call 911. He didn't ask for help. He pretends to say, I wish I went downstairs and woke her up, probably referring to Jen Soto, and called 911. But he didn't. He carried her body out of the house, according to the detectives, and drove around with her deceased body for 2 hours and then put her in the trunk and disposed of her. I mean, that is beyond anything he's trying to tell his parents.
Unbelievable. Okay, our guests staying with us. Coming up next, what happened to Madeline inside that room?
Just seeing her pale face and blue lips and how ice cold she was, and she passed away. You know, I suffered a catastrophic mental breakdown at that point.
Now, back to the Court TV podcast.
Maybe God just delivered her out of a place that was going to become really bad for her.
I mean, I always knew that life was going to be hard for her. Her mom certainly didn't do her any favors, and since I had no say in the matter of how she was raised or disciplined or anything, there was nothing I could do about it but sit back and watch the train wreck as it unfolded.
What is that? Stephan Sterns is talking about a train wreck of Madeline Soto's life. Like, he's the conductor. He's the one driving that train and wrecking that train, according to prosecutors. Years of sexual abuse, and then apparently killing her in his bed. Those are the allegations. What is he talking about? That he wanted to be the one to discipline her? This is unreal, what we're listening to in this phone call with his parents. Here's more about the night and the night that Madeline died.
By the time I realized anything was wrong, it was just far too late. You know, been gone for a while.
Okay.
Just seeing her pale face and blue lips and how ice cold she was. And
That brings us to the next question in our investigation. This poor girl. What happened to Madeline inside that room? Room number 4. Let's bring in our guests. Joining us, forensic death investigator, host of the very popular Body Bags podcast, Joseph Scott Morgan. Still with us, creator and host of Grizzly True Crime on YouTube, Gisela K. Joseph, let me start with you. His description here, her face was pale, lips were blue, and she was ice cold. How long does it take for someone to get into that state after they've been killed?
Well, we don't have a quantitative amount or a number, okay, for temperature dip here. But what I can say is that for the first hour after death, you're going to lose about 1.5 to 2 degrees of body heat. And then that's the first hour. For every hour after that, you're going to lose 1 degree up until the 12th hour, until you assume what people refer to as room temperature. So, at that point in time, he's given us a big tell here, Ben, because he's saying that her body is cold to the touch. The other piece to this is that he's saying that her lips were blue. And when I think about this, when I think about blue lips, I'm not thinking about cold here. I'm thinking about cyanosis, which means that this is indicative of having the airway impeded in some way so that she's not uptaking oxygen. She probably had a blue tinge to her or a purple tinge. We don't know what her eyes looked like because we haven't gotten that information. But I would suspect that somewhere, since they're calling this a strangulation, we're going to see petechiae as well, where the little vessels probably burst. There is some concern, and that's the actual word that the ME used, Ben, about the hyoid. And the hyoid is not intact. We just don't know to what degree. And just as a brief little primer here, if everyone at home will find your Adam's apple right here, this little cartilaginous body, and go above it or superior to it, this is where your hyoid actually is. You have to get so high, Ben, in this area in order to disrupt this and to fracture it. We only see this in manual strangulations. Okay, so we're talking about a C-clamp or maybe even a throttling, which is 2 hands like this, where this thing is being dislodged or perhaps fractured in that area. And this is quite chilling. I truly believe in that when all is said and done, another thing that we're going to hear about is probably in the soft tissues, the strap muscles through here. There might be faint evidence of hemorrhage in those areas as well, but a lot of this is going to be disrupted by decomposition. I would imagine they've got several forensic pathologists consulting on this case, Ben.
Gisela, in all the evidence that you've gone through, the files, everything that's been made public and released, have you seen anywhere any evidence of sexual assault that night?
Yes. So from the autopsy report and then the DNA swabs, they actually said that there was presence of blood under Madeline Soto's fingernails and then on her hands and on her neck, and then below the waist where one might not expect it to be, especially for a little girl. She just turned 13. So yes, that is absolutely horrifying to think about, especially being in that clinical room upstairs of Jen Soto's ex-boyfriend.
Let me ask you, Joseph, is it possible that the strangulation could be taking place during a sexual assault?
Yeah, absolutely. Asphyxial deaths are arguably, in my experience, the most intimate kind of homicide that you can have, even more intimate than a stabbing, because this requires you to place flesh on flesh and it is the most intimate of circumstances. I'll tell you one other thing I'd be very interested in. I know that they did a rape kit. Okay, that's going to be standard in this case. I would be very interested to know if they did what are referred to as pubic combings, which is, if you've heard the term a fine-tooth comb, that generally applies to like gathering of lice eggs. But we use those combs, those fine-tooth combs, at autopsy as well. And what you're looking for is hair, pubic hair that has fallen away. So not just the victim, but also a perpetrator. And if you can find a hair that is associated with him, and we'd be looking for mitochondrial DNA in this case, if the root ball did not come out with it, that could be another tie back as well, Vin.
Gisela, any information you come across that involves any hair?
Yes, they did actually find a hair in that region of Madeline Soto's that wasn't hers, but they said that it was like inconclusive. They couldn't quite complete that test. I did also forget to mention that they found Stephan Sterns' saliva or his DNA on her breast area as well. So yeah, there's a lot of evidence there.
Unbelievable. All right, our guests are staying with us. We've got more to get to in our investigation. Up next, how about Mom? What did Jen Soto know?
The Court TV Podcast will return.
I'm Vinnie Politan. We continue our investigation of the death of Madeline Soto, who had just celebrated her 13th birthday when she was murdered after being sent upstairs by her mother to share a bed with her mother's boyfriend. Here's the story.
Madeline Soto's life was difficult. Her dad lived at estate, so she was being raised by her mom, Jen Soto. Jen had an on-again, off-again relationship with a man named Stephan Sterns. Sterns didn't work much. He didn't own much. So we spent a lot of time over the years living in the house with Jen and Madeline. Then in a strange arrangement, Sterns would sometimes sleep with Jen and Madeline and sometimes with just Madeline alone. Jen says she didn't suspect anything was going on. But when Madeline went missing and was found murdered, detectives told Jen that Sterns had pictures on his phone of Madeline being sexually abused by Sterns. Her reaction has raised eyebrows and some suspicion, but Jen hasn't been charged with anything and will be a key witness against Sterns, who's been charged with abusing and murdering Madeline and is now facing a potential death sentence.
From the beginning of this case, everyone has been wondering about Jen Soto. Everyone. I mean, Jen is a single mom, right? The father's not in the picture. She's a single mom, but it has this guy, Stephan Sterns, who's coming in and out of her life, and she's the one who brings him into Madeline's life. And they live in this house. And it's not the biggest house in town, but it's, you know, it's a decent size. Got a couple different floors, some roommates living in there. But it's Jen is the one who's literally sending her daughter to be in a bed alone on another floor of the house behind a locked, closed door with her boyfriend, a grown man. So after his arrest, he's speaking with his parents on the phone, and there's a lot being revealed in these phone calls. Take a listen.
The only thing that showed any emotion at all was jiggling her leg, but she did that anyway. So yeah, she was anxious because she was lying to her teeth. Why is it in a bracelet?
But you know, it's fine. I wouldn't waste too much energy having any sort of grudge or hurt feelings against her. She's suffering too in her own way, so.
I'm not as much as you are, sweetheart.
Well, you know, she lost her daughter.
Yeah?
Her whole world was turned upside down, too.
This is bizarre. This is bizarre world. But Mom is very skeptical of Jen Soto. And Stephan Sterns seems to be saying, well, you know, she lost her daughter. What do you mean lost her daughter? Like, he's talking about like she's dead in your bed upstairs. Unbelievable. But again, just the reaction of Stephan Sterns' mother is the reaction that the public has had to this case from day one, which brings us to the next question in our investigation. And it's about Mom. What did Jen Soto know? She has not been charged with anything. She's not accused of anything in this case, but what did she know here? Joining me, forensic death investigator, host of the very popular Body Bags podcast, Joseph Scott Morgan, and creator and host of Grizzly True Crime YouTube channel, has been following this case, breaking news left and right. Gisela Kay is with us as well. Okay, this is like the question that we've been asking since day one. We will continue to ask this through the trials, and I don't know, maybe even after the trials, we may still be asking this question. But Gisela, she knows that they're up there. Has there been any acknowledgement that she knew or suspected that something could be going on with Stephan Sterns abusing her daughter?
In her police video interviews, we heard her say that her worst fear was that this would become a Woody Allen situation. But in these newly released jail calls between Stephan Sterns and his parents, he says that she used to joke about that. So it wasn't only that time that she said it multiple times to him as well. So that tells me she knew the sexual abuse was going on, I speculate. And when they actually showed her the evidence of it, I mean, she pushed it aside as if it was, okay, let's forget about that. You know, that's not the evil, like, I don't think he did anything evil to her, right? I mean, that just tells me that she knew to some extent what was going on.
Joseph Scott Morgan, this has been issue number one for a lot of people, and I'm sure it was for investigators as well. In her interrogation, in her interview, the detective was very skeptical, extremely skeptical of Jen. She hasn't been charged with anything. She's not facing charges here, but it just seems difficult for her to not know, to be that oblivious, especially in light of what Gisela is saying here. You know, she's talking, she didn't want a Woody Allen situation. And Woody Allen is the one who ends up marrying the adopted daughter of his girlfriend or ex-girlfriend. Like, to me, that's pretty direct. That's not like a random reference.
No, it's not. And, you know, in the first segment that I was involved with, we were talking about Tom issues, right? I want to circle back to Tom here, Vin. Think about this volume of digital data that we're talking about. It takes time to amass these images and the videography that goes along with this disgusting set of circumstances. So the big question is, when did all of this filming and still photography take place? And we also have to think about the amount of time that this individual has been in Maddie's life. And to be out of touch to this degree, I think, with the intimate nature of what was going on, it speaks volumes to this. Relative to what this child had endured below these many years. It sends a chill up, I think, any right-thinking person's spine to think that he would have this kind of access and opportunity if, in fact, he did generate these images for her. It's interesting. You know, I sit here and I listen to the mother refer to him as sweetheart. And I really wonder how many times throughout her precious little life that Maddie was referred to as sweetheart. I'm going to call her sweetheart right now, and this sweetheart did not deserve what happened to her. I don't care whose hand it was at, because there's a lot of peripheral actors involved in this spin.
Absolutely. Let's take a listen to Jen Soto here making the denial, and again, no charges for Jen Soto.
If I knew anything, I promise you, I would tell you. Like, I am willing to take a lie detector test, whatever the you want, but I don't know anything. He's never mentioned anything. I've never seen any signs. I tried watching her like a hawk. I thought I was doing a good job, but I wasn't. I was oblivious to everything. 4 years?
Minimum. That's just how far back the cloud goes.
And Gisela, this is the part that nobody understands. Nobody understands. And I think you add to the fact that she's literally sending her daughter up to that room with him. Like and it's at a point apparently in her relationship with Stephan Sterns where they are no longer engaged in any sort of sexual contact.
Exactly. How uncomfortable is that? And knowing that her daughter was doing better after Stephan Sterns moved out, but still inviting him over to stay over the night after Madeline Soto's birthday party so that Jen Soto could enjoy her 2 days off. That alone is terrifying. And then to think of just the next day after Madeline Soto, you know, on the 26th of Feb of 2024, after she had died and Stephan had her in the vehicle. How did Jen not know that he was doing laundry that day? Because he was doing that all morning. So she would have known he was doing laundry. She knew that he factory reset his phone. She obviously knew that he was last with her upstairs, but she wasn't angry. She actually wanted to get him a lawyer.
That was the reaction. Does he need a lawyer? Like, your daughter's missing. You've just seen pictures of her being abused by this man. Does he need a lawyer was the reaction. Unreal. Joseph Scott Morgan, great to see you. Thank you so much. Gisela's going to stick around.
Yeah,
still to come, are there other potential victims?
I want to understand that you gave the deputies consent to look through your phone. You didn't? Okay. You're a very intelligent person. I don't want you to discredit yourself by saying you don't know about all the pictures that are on your phone.
This is the Court TV Podcast.
I want to understand that you gave the deputies consent to look through your phone. You didn't? Okay. Here's where I'm going to be brutally honest with you. There's your phone. And I'm pretty sure you know what some of those pictures are about. You're a very intelligent person. And I don't want you to discredit yourself by saying you don't know about all the pictures that are on your phone.
Should I be talking with a lawyer right now?
That's the moment. That's the moment he realizes that it's over. They found everything on his phone. He knows what's on the phone. He knows what was on his Google Drive. And that really became the end of him speaking, except for some phone calls that he made with his parents, which were recorded and we're listening to. I want you to take a listen to this next call, because, again, the conversation, these are things that you wouldn't expect that they would be talking about on something that is being recorded, but they did. Let's listen.
Maybe she could have been saved, but
she was beyond that.
Okay.
You know, when someone's that ice cold and just gone, just seeing her pale face and blue lips and how ice cold she was. And
just that, they say that sometimes when you like children, that you have been an abused child, and it was intimated that perhaps we had abused you in some way.
No, he has never did. And strictly speaking, I'm not actually into younger people like that. As you know, I don't even like most kids, so it's just hard to feel a generalized attraction towards any of them.
Was it just her, or was it other people as well?
I can't get into specific details, but no, it was not a thing with anybody.
They're asking him if he's involved with other underage people, victims here. And there seems to be an acknowledgement in there, that acknowledging that Madeline was a victim of his. These calls are going to be evidence, folks. The jury's going to hear these calls. But that little last part, the question about others, and the generalized attraction brings us to the next question in our investigation. Are there other potential victims? Like, what's going on in his life? Does he have access to other children? Is there any evidence of him going after other people, committing sexual type of crimes? Here with us, following the case from the beginning, Court TV field reporter Cody Thomas, and still with us, Gisela Kay. All right, Cody, first of all, right, so there's an acknowledgement by him that he does spend time with Madeline in bed, like cuddling.
Absolutely, Vinny. Of course, that could be seen as some odd behavior by most adults. And there are several accounts of odd behavior by Stephan Sterns from a couple different people. One of the most notable ones is from Stephan's ex-girlfriend, not Jen Soto, but an ex-girlfriend prior. The ex-girlfriend says Stephan Sterns told her that although he was separated from his girlfriend, being Jen Soto, he still slept at Madeline's residence, and specifically in the bed with Madeline. He justified this behavior by saying he needed to cuddle with her so she could fall asleep. In this last part, Vinny, I just have to say it. He also told her he woke up in bed with Madeline with an erection. Now, Vinny, this isn't the first time we've heard about this cuddling that Stephan would do with Madeline. He also talks about it during a police interview. Take a listen.
What are the sleeping arrangements?
He sleeps in.
Okay. Did she sleep in her bed Sunday night?
No. I was just back. I'd been away for a couple months. We in the same bed together, so we get some serious sleep. So she said no to that and suggested that the guest room upstairs had a big enough bed. So some snuggle cuddle time that would suffice and Jim get to sleep in peace.
Okay. So you say snuggle time, what does that mean?
I like to be alone. She is extremely dependent. She does not like to be alone at all. She needs human presence around her.
So again, Vinny, not her biological father, not even her official stepfather. Weird behavior all around here, unorthodox behavior all around here.
Gisela, this part, has creeped out so many people, but it seems to me what we're hearing here from Sterns is some sort of minimization and explanation for his conduct.
Yeah, I mean, he tends to do that, and he always makes himself to be the victim. And even saying, Jane needed her good night's rest, and then him and a child could have some snuggle cuddle time. I mean, isn't that just sickening? But to think of the charges that he's facing, over 60 counts of these child sexual abuse charges, each count linked to 10 or more pictures or videos. And that's just from his Google Drive. Then they found a USB as well. And there's 35,000 images on there. And those are most likely other kids. So when he says it wasn't really a thing, I think he means it like if someone says, are you dating someone? You say it's not really a thing. That's how sick he is. Like with Madeline, he thinks he had a thing, and with all these other kids, not really. But I'm sure there's other victims as well.
Cody, how about the story about him and a roommate? What was that?
Yeah, Vinny, so this was according to investigators during an investigation. And actually, in a court document by those same investigators, it should be noted, prior to the search of Stephan's apartment, I was advised there were photographs located on Stephan's phone where he appeared to record his roommate in secret. While at the apartment, I was able to utilize Stephan's cell phone and recreate the angle and contents of the photographs by placing his cell phone under the crack of Sterns' bedroom door. So what does that tell us, Vinny? He was sliding his phone under a door, whether it was a bedroom door, maybe that was a bathroom door, but in an effort to sneakily spy on his roommate at the time.
This is some creepy behavior, Gisela.
Very creepy. And I was actually, I thought you were going to bring up that there was an ex-girlfriend that said that he could only get aroused if she played dead. How scary is that to think that in many of the pictures and videos, Madeline Soto appears to be sleeping. So she may have been drugged or sedated or something. And with this adult ex-girlfriend, she said she had to basically lie there as if she was dead. That is, I think he could be so much worse than we can ever imagine.
Unbelievable. And then, Cody, another friend was talking about his I guess, what he's like when he goes out.
Yeah, Vinny, this friend specifically says here they would be out and about and an adult female would be interested in Stephan, and Stephan showed zero interest. Stephan said he was more upset about the bond he created with Madeline than having a relationship with Jennifer. So it seems that at any given time, all times, whether he's out with his friends, adult friends, he's always somewhat thinking about Madeline here, Vinny.
Yeah, what's more shocking here, Gisela, that there's an adult female out there that might be interested in him, or, you know, his whole attitude toward the thing. It looks like he's is it possible that at this point he's his sole focus is on Madeline?
I don't think so, because he's such an alleged predator that I think even the filming under the door and cheating on Jen with some other lady, and she's having to pretend to be dead, and then abusing Madeline Soto, that's a lot. There's a lot that was going on with this guy. So, yeah, I don't think we've heard the worst of it yet.
Now, he hasn't worked much, but Cody, our understanding is that he worked at Disney at some point?
Yeah, Vinny, Stephan Sterns' Facebook page says he worked at Disney World, and while it's unclear if that is true or not, some online sleuths believe they tracked down video that appears to show him working at the entrance of the Journey into Imagination attraction in Epcot. Now, the video was posted on Travel in 360's YouTube page, and we pulled a still image from the very beginning of the video where you can see a Disney employee who appears to look a lot like Sterns. You see it right there. Again, unconfirmed that is him, but he has the same beard, has the same look, looks just like him.
It looks just like him. And I think on his profile, I think on one of the profiles on social media, he also listed Disney as potentially one of the places that he worked at when he worked. I mean, he rarely worked. We know that. Cody Thomas, a great job. Great to see you. Gisela K, check it out. Grizzly True Crime on YouTube. We appreciate your time and your insights. Wow. Now, in a case like this, investigators are always wondering about other victims. It's something they surely here have taken a look at. You know, you got a guy involved in this sort of conduct. And that's what's so unique and tragic about this case, is that investigators believe the sexual abuse had actually taken course over at least 4 years, maybe 4.5 years. So maybe, and I'm just hoping maybe, he only had time for one victim, unless the others have kept quiet, just like Madeline did. I'm Vinnie Politan. We'll keep digging for answers as the investigation continues.
There you have it. If you want to see more in-depth reporting on the latest true crime stories, you can see me every weeknight, 8 p.m. Eastern on Closing Arguments. Thank you so much for downloading. And as always, please don't forget to hug the kids.
This podcast is a production of Court TV. Go to CourtTV.com for more content, trials on demand, and to find out how to watch Court TV in your area.